Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host, and for this one I am joined by Aaron Prendergast, the man behind GAA Fan TV. We're going to run through all of the games which are coming up this weekend in the Gaelic Football Championship and Hurling Championships for 2023. So Aaron, I think it's safe to say that the last two weekends we've had some absolutely extraordinary moments. You think back to weekend one, Ryan O'Toole's goal and the game between Tyrone and Monaghan, what a game that was. Then last weekend, of course, the action from all across the championships, all across each provincial championships, that cracker of a game between Clare and Tipperary. It's just been one hell of a start for the championship in both codes.
Yeah, no, it has. And there's been so many talking points, I suppose, in both weekends. Obviously, as you said, it was like 2 weeks ago. I remember there was only two games on. I think it was Derry Fermanagh and Monaghan Tyrone. And the Monaghan Tyrone, there was so many talking points. Like there was so much to discuss. You had the late goal, but you also had Tyrone playing well. You had the fact that Monaghan have obviously gone away to Tyrone. Obviously the permutations for the rest of the season. And even, Rory Gallagher, obviously on the sideline against Fermanagh was certainly a talking point in itself, obviously celebrating like a madman against the county he's from and played for and managed, which is certainly something you don't see.
Pulling an Emmanuel out of Bayor.
He kind of was, yeah. I suppose the GAA equivalent in some ways. Like if it had been a fully packed stadium, you nearly wouldn't be surprised if he did start jumping in front of the fans. Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. So it's been great so far, and like definitely in line for some more talking points this week. Like obviously, Louth haven't reached the Leinster final since 2010. Offaly haven't reached a Leinster final since 2006. Derry versus Monaghan, cracking game as we'd expect, and very curious to see how Down get on against Armagh as well. So there'll be a lot to discuss for this weekend's action.
Yeah, without doubt. So we are going to run through it province by province. We're going to go with the Ulster semi-finals, then Leinster semi-finals, and then we're going to switch over and start with the hurling. We're going to do Munster and then Leinster. So let's start with the Ulster semi-finals, and definitely the pick out of the two, Derry versus Monaghan. What an amazing game this is going to be. It's played in Healy Park in Omagh. Bit of a tough one for Tyrone fans to swallow, watching Monaghan play against Derry in their home patch. But for Monaghan, could that actually be an edge going back to a ground where, of course, they had an amazing day out there last time?
I'd say it would be, yeah. Because we've all been there, I suppose. Maybe not at the same level as players, but I mean, we've played for clubs or whatever. We all have memories of you go back to a ground where you had a great game on or a great memory, and it would be so fresh in the heads for the Monaghan players. It was literally only 2 weeks ago. So, look, I know Derry have had good memories on that ground recently as well, but I think at the same time for Monaghan, because it was a bit of a voodoo, beating Tyrone, and to go back there now, obviously haven't played in the pitch, haven't played as well as they did. They'll probably start quite confident, and I think they need to as well, because I think if Monaghan start as poor as they did against Tyrone in this game, you'd imagine Derry will shut up shop and make it very, very tough for Monaghan. Tyrone were very loose at the back at times, especially, the fact they even conceded a late goal chance when, I suppose, as we said, like Ryan O'Toole didn't need to go for goal there. Like Monaghan only needed a point to send that game to extra time. And he obviously went and went for the goal, and that's obviously what won them the game. But you'd imagine Derry won't be as loose at the back as what Tyrone will be, and that's why Monaghan will need to start fast. And to be fair, after what happened to them a couple of weeks ago on that same ground, you'd imagine they will do.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a controversial statement to come out with. Monaghan's second home ground is Healy Park in Omagh. But no, that was something to cook up the rivalry there for sure. But I actually do agree with you. I think that Monaghan going back to a ground where they had an amazing day out there last time, I think that will help them. This game, though, as you said, yes, it is different, because let's not forget as well, the start here is crucial, because Derry beat Monaghan last year, and if memory serves, Derry got off to a fantastic start in that game. You think about the Benny Heron goal in particular. That was one where it was really like, whoa, like Derry could blow Monaghan away here. Monaghan did pull them back in, and it turned out to be a cracker of a game. But that start last time actually did kind of turn out to be the difference.
It did, yeah. Like, and that's probably how Derry won the Ulster Championship in some ways last year when you think about it. And it's sort of almost like their signature move is scoring early goals. Like they do it so often. Like they got an early goal against Monaghan, as you said. You know, they scored what in the first minute versus Donegal. Against Clare in the All Ireland quarterfinals last year, they got a couple of early goals, and even throughout the league this year as well. Like they've, against Meath, for example, getting an early goal. It seems to be what they go for. Like I think there was probably this narrative around Gaelic football teams that probably still exists in some ways, where they say, take your points and your goals will come. But Derry are the complete flip to that. If they get a sniff of a goal opportunity, they're going for it, and more often than not, it ends up in the back of the net. And I think that'll be something for Monaghan to focus on. But look, Vinnie Corey's a smart man. I think this is the most consistent Monaghan have been since 2018, in my opinion. And even in 2018, there was an element of them that was actually inconsistent, because I think they beat Tyrone in the championship and then lost to Fermanagh in Ulster. Obviously went on a bit of a run then. So yeah, it's a strange one with Monaghan at the best of times, but I think when you look at Monaghan's application in a lot of their games this year, it's been top drawer. Like they've really shown the full strength of their panel. I think they've shown they're more than just a one-man team, and Jack McCarron stepping up, Conor McCarthy stepping up, Ryan O'Toole obviously in his championship debut. Like you can't ask for much more. So yeah, I think the narrative maybe that Monaghan were going to fall away probably isn't going to happen. I think they're going to be stuck around this level now for the next couple of seasons, and yeah, like I think they'll be well aware of Derry's opening goal threat, which is probably, to be fair, what might make this game maybe a bit of a cagey game until it opens up probably in the second half.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that Monaghan will be very, very concerned as to not let Derry get up, to not let Derry build up a lead, because they let them do that last year. It didn't end well. We have a comment in here, and Aaron, and put this one to you as well. Do you know when the Tailteann Cup draw is going to take place? Meath fan, I don't get to see Leitrim or New York. I'm guessing that is what that is trying to say. So the Tailteann Cup draw, do we know when that is off the top of our head?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure now, but I think it's in 2 or 3 weeks' time. I think it might be on the Monday after the provincial finals, or maybe the Monday after, I think. But I think it's on the same day as the group stage draw as well. And I'd say most likely it'll be on like Monday morning on like RT Radio 1 or something. They should do on the Sunday game live. Like I think it'd be great.
I think they'll do entertainment.
Yeah,
but again, last year we know that content doesn't mix well with RT. They don't.
No. Like it'd be great if they did it live, and like I don't know, we could all watch it live.
Yeah, that would be great. Like there you go. There's a brilliant little program opportunity there. I mean, throw that at the end of the Sunday game if you want people to stick around and watch till the end. If you say we're going to have the draw done live here at the end, that'd be a great idea. Yeah, hopefully they introduce that. Of course, all the teams in the Tailteann Cup are not yet decided, and we're going to, one of our games, Armagh against Down, and obviously Dublin against Kildare is massively crucial as to who could go into the Tailteann Cup. If Down made it past Armagh, then that pours all the pressure on Kildare to go off and pull off an amazing result against Dublin, which I think we both think isn't going to happen. So Kildare will be keeping a very close eye on that Armagh versus Down game. But back to the one we were discussing, Derry Monaghan. Obviously on the bench for Derry, and this was a bit of a left field talking point, but on the bench for Derry in the last day, it was a certain Kieran McFall. Do you think he could make an appearance in this game?
Yeah, it's a hard one to know, to be honest. Like I suppose only Rory Gallagher really knows. Like he's definitely good enough to play for Derry. We all know that, but obviously like he's been away for a long time because of everything that's gone on over in America involving him, and obviously it's a legal case that's still ongoing, so we won't sort of mention the formalities too much. But he hasn't played for Waterford Graham's Glen, during this year's club season, and he obviously didn't play for Derry at all last year. So, or he played for them in the league, but he didn't play for them in the championship. So it's been a long time away, and it's hard to know like how much he's been playing, over in America. What's his fitness levels like and everything else. And look, Derry are a great side. Like he's not just going to slot straight back in there. Like Garrett McKinless is obviously back now as well, and he's fully fit playing in that centre back role. You've got Brendan Rodgers, who's playing sometimes as a wing back, sometimes as midfield. Like Michael Warnock's look very good as well. So there isn't a need really to throw him straight in my opinion. So, I think having that option there is great, and maybe bringing him off the bench, for 10, 15 minutes if you need the extra legs. But I suppose only Rory Gallagher will really know whether he's earned a spot in the starting 15, because, Derry haven't done much wrong this year. So it's hard to really quantify dropping players.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that. So one of the key points that I wanted to talk about here is Monaghan are a team that tend to go on the front foot a bit more. They tend to attack a bit more, whereas Derry are hugely, hugely good at the back. They're hugely good at the back. So could this be the toughest test, A, for the Derry defence, and then B, for the Monaghan forwards matching up against each other?
I think it could be all right. When you look at Derry, like, they didn't really come up against much good attacks in the league. And I think that's probably why there's a lot of people who are quite skeptical of whether Derry are actually serious All-Ireland contenders or just, a great provincial team. Because like when they came up against Dublin and Croke Park, like Dublin didn't even play at their best. And I think they scored, 4 goals against them?
4 goals.
Do you know what I mean? Like Dublin didn't even play that great that day.
You think about the Galway game as well. That was against an elite side. They got blown away.
Yeah. And they even
also, we have a comment here about Kieran McFall. She said, I know he played in the league. I saw him last year against Galway. So there's a bit of information on McFall. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, Derry's style is really, really good in the provincial grounds. It's really, really good in Owen Beg. It's really, really good in Healy Park and Omagh. But then when they got to Croke Park, when they played 2 elite teams in Croke Park, they got blown away on both occasions. And that has to be something in Rory Gallagher's mind going forward. If he wants them to win All Ireland, if this is what this is all about, take a leaf out of Jim McGuinness's book. The first year made them really hard to beat, got on top in Ulster, but then it was all about winning an All Ireland from there.
Yeah, and I'm sure Rory Gallagher spoke. I listened to him on the BBC Social even before the Ulster title success, and he did openly say, like, he wants to win an All Ireland with Derry. Like, that's what he's here. He wouldn't have come to Derry if he didn't believe an All Ireland was there. So, look, it's something to work on, and I suppose the problem for Derry is they probably haven't had that too many experiences to actually learn. Like, they've only played in Croke Park 4 times over. Yeah, like they played against Offaly one year in a Division 3 final. Can you really count that? You probably can't. So then you're counting Clare, Galway, Dublin, Derry, or Dublin. Yeah, so it's hard to really to know with them. But at the same time, in Omagh, like, it's a ground that will probably suit them. They'll probably sit in. They'll make it hard for Monaghan. But it'd be interesting to know, like, because at the same time, Monaghan have the players that can hurt you, points wise from distance, with Conor McManus, Jack McCarron, Conor McCarthy. They're all players who can kick from outside the 20-30 meter line. So, like, Derry will need to be. I think Derry will just need to get at Monaghan. Get after them straight away. I think if they sit in too much, they'll invite Monaghan onto them, and then Monaghan will just grow in confidence. And a Monaghan team that grows in confidence and is still in it going into the last 4 or 5 minutes is a very dangerous proposition, because they're that type of team that love chasing a game, especially when the game is on. Whereas if Derry could get a couple of early goals, build up an 8 to 9 point lead in the opening 20 minutes, which probably be tough to do, to be honest, Monaghan's confidence could go a little bit. But Monaghan are going to have a purple patch in the final 10, 15 minutes, because that's what they always do in games. So I think for Derry, it's about making sure they're in a great position when that purple patch does come around.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. Another key area that I wanted to look at is Shane McGuigan. Now, I'd like to give a shout out to our man, GAA Statsman. Like, he's consistently said that Shane McGuigan is one of the most underrated forwards in the country, if not one of the best footballers in the country. How do Monaghan deal with him? Because his form has been consistently brilliant now throughout 2023.
Yeah, well, I think you have to man mark him. I mean, see, that's the thing, is like, Derry are probably better overall defensively than Monaghan, but Monaghan's attack is probably more lethal in terms of, like, they have a top forward in Conor McManus, but the other players around them, like Jack McCarron, Conor McCarthy, although they haven't always been the most consistent footballers, when they're on it, they're on it. You know what I mean? And they can give you something that probably Derry don't have in attack. But look, all the best players have tried with Shane McGuigan. It doesn't really work. He just has a way of dealing with it. Like I suppose the best example maybe was in that semi-final. Galway done quite well to keep him quiet on that occasion, so that they keep it, take a leaf out of Porrick Joyce's book. But yeah, like you'd imagine they will pick him up. I'm not entirely sure who will pick him up. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but
I'd probably lean towards a Kieran Duffy or maybe a Ryan Wiley, someone with a lot of experience.
Yeah, Ryan Wiley would be a good shout, in fairness, because he's been there, done it, marked the best. But at the same time, though, I don't think Monaghan should place too much emphasis on Shane McGuigan as well at the same time and stopping him, because he is that good of a footballer that he's probably going to end up at 1-6, 1-7 anyways. I think it's and I suppose if you keep Shane McGuigan quiet, the rest of Derry's attack, they have Benny Heron, Lakeland Murray, they've got good footballers, but not marquee forwards who could change a game, So, it's an interesting one, but you'd imagine Monaghan will put their best defender on McGuigan. It would make perfect sense, and maybe Ryan Wiley, Kieran Duffy. I suppose Ryan Wiley's got the experience, he's got the legs as well, so it'd be a great show.
No, that's what I mean. It's one of those things where Derry's system, in my opinion, relies a lot more on Shane McGuigan than people realise. He's the one that consistently delivers 4, 5, 6, 7 points a game. He consistently delivers. And they've never really had to do it without him. He hasn't had a major injury. He hasn't been out for half a season. He hasn't been out for a season. He's stayed consistently fit now for a long time and has stayed consistently delivering. And the one game that you mentioned where a team was able to get on top of him and keep him quiet, the Galway game, what happened to Derry that day, particularly in the second half, they capitulated. So going into this game, Monaghan's target should be Shane McGuigan, because if they can stop the ace scorer to the best that they can, they're not going to stop him entirely. He's too good to keep him scoreless. But if you can stop him to the best that you can, it's a massive step in the right direction for Monaghan on the way to a potential victory and an Ulster final appearance. The last thing, I'm just going to throw a blank question to you. Is there any other area that you feel is a really key factor in who could take this?
Yeah, I think the midfield battle will be very interesting as well. And obviously the sort of energy that Conor Glass brings around midfield. We've seen, he went off, for the final 20 minutes against Dublin. He went off for the final 20 minutes against Fermanagh. He's played a lot of games. He went straight from White Graham's Glen playing in an All-Ireland club final straight into the league, no messing about. And that's when he has come off the pitch, and maybe when he hasn't played, I know they still have the likes of Emmett Bradley and Brendan Rodgers played in midfield at times, but I think the influence that he gives you, the catching the high balls, the supply as well. He's the man who's brilliant at playing those passes into Shane McGuigan. So if he's not playing, that's a big miss. And I suppose if Monaghan can, I suppose, limit that influence, around the middle with the likes of Killian Lavelle or even Darren Hughes as well. And I think another area as well is obviously Conor McManus. I mean, you'd imagine Chrissy McKaigue will probably be the one to pick him up. I think he marked him last year and kept him fairly quiet. Although Monaghan have other areas that can hurt you, and to be fair, Conor McManus only scored a point from play against Tyrone. His influence in terms of scoring from play probably isn't the same as what it was 4 or 5 years ago. But I think more so, there can't be any indiscipline here from Derry. They can't give away too many fouls. They did that too much against Dublin. And as well as that, stopping him on the ball, because he's becoming more now of a playmaker. He's setting things up around him, setting up goal chances. And then if you give him a big chance in a big moment, final minutes of the game, he's probably the man to take it. So, yeah, I think whoever picks up Conor McManus, whether it be Chrissy McKaigue, and the midfield battle, I think will serve to who wins the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chrissy McKaigue is going to go straight on to Conor McManus. I actually think that Jack McCarron could be worth a watch in this game, because he played nowhere near the level that he can against Tyrone. He was off the pace in that game and got taken off, and Sean Jones was put on in this place. I think he'll be eager to prove a point in this game. And really, now that we have done all that preview, it's time to nail your colours to the mast. Which one do you think is going to take this, Derry or Monaghan? Derry to get into an Ulster final to retain their crown potentially, or Monaghan to make it into claim potentially their first Ulster since 2015?
Yeah, like, well, I said in my own preview, I backed Derry, so I guess I'd be a hypocrite if I went otherwise. But I think at the same
You could
time,
do that and then just play the clip of either your channel saying that
yeah,
Derry were going to win.
maybe I should start doing that and just confuse everyone and start throwing out like different predictions on different
I
shows.
told you so. No matter what the result is,
Yeah,
throw Matthews and say a draw.
yeah, no, but I do think Derry will just have a bit more than Monaghan. But like, I'm not convinced in saying that though. Like, I think this could be extra time. Penalties could very well be on the cards. I just think Derry will be a lot more wide to what Monaghan are offering. I think they'll be bang up for it. They'll start fast as they usually do. And I think for Monaghan as well, like, it is still the first season for Vinnie Corey. There is vulnerabilities there defensively at times. Like, we have seen teams open up Monaghan. Kerry scored 3 goals against them. Tyrone got a couple of, got a goal against them. Obviously got a couple of goals against them in the league as well. They aren't perfect defensively. Like, they've probably shifted from being quite a bit of a defensive side under Banty and Malachy O'Rourke to now playing a lot more on the front foot. And I think Derry, like, I do think they'll open them up and probably score 2 or 3 goals. Like, I think points wise, I think Monaghan will have them, but I think goals wise is where Derry will win the game. Like, I could see Derry winning 3-10 and probably Monaghan will finish with like 1-15 or something of that nature.
I completely agree with you. I said Derry at the start of the year that I thought Derry were going to retain their Ulster title, and I'm sticking with them. I don't mean it as a disrespect to Monaghan, and every time that I back against Monaghan, they seem to pull a rabbit out of the hat and make it happen. But I just feel like Derry will just get through this one. I feel like, look, the Monaghan game against Tyrone, I feel like while, yes, that was a fantastic win, I feel like that also took so much out of them. Like that, I feel like Derry kind of had an easy enough run through. Now, maybe you could argue that it's the other way around. Maybe you could argue that, look, Derry haven't been significantly tested compared to Monaghan. But at the same time, the league is so close to the championship that you can just go back and look at the Dublin game, look at the Cork game where Derry drew and were beaten in their last 2 league games and say that, well, look, if they weren't tested, then explain the Cork game and explain the Dublin game. So, yes, while the Fermanagh game definitely was a cakewalk compared to Monaghan's game against Tyrone, you could argue that Derry also got the tests but have had more time to recover than this Monaghan side. And maybe, just maybe, I feel like they'll crawl through. And I literally mean 1 point, or as you said, extra time, getting through by a point, or penalties. I just feel it is that close. Yeah. And I think I can speak for the both of us in saying we would not be the slightest bit surprised if Monaghan went and did it. It is one of those where you just flip a coin and whatever side the coin lands on is whichever team is going to win. Like, they are that close. And you look back at last year's game, Benny Heron stuck it in the net. Derry got off to an amazing start. Looked like they could blow Monaghan away. And then it still ended up being an absolute classic. So one thing's for sure, I cannot wait to see this game. But so now we're going to move on to the other Ulster semi-final, which is, of course, Armagh against Down. And really, like, this is the prediction that both of us had. Both of us correctly called last time that Down would beat Donegal. But were you impressed with Down's performance even more than you thought you would be? I personally was. I thought, like, the Liam Kerr goal, fantastic finish. Danny McGill looking hugely impressive at wing back. Eugene Brannigan in the side. Just really good vibes around this Down team right now.
Yeah, it definitely was, because like, it wasn't just like they narrowly beat Donegal or they scraped a late point victory. Like, they just blew them away in the second half. And even when they faced a bit of adversity, conceding that goal, and Down's defense was opened up a couple of times in the first half, and you were thinking, maybe Down just aren't quite there just yet. But in fairness, they came through the adversity. They came through it. As you said, Liam Kerr obviously got himself a big goal. Pat Haverns looked very good as well. And like, I suppose all the emphasis has been on the Kilcoo lads coming back in or coming in, like Eugene Brannigan and Ryan Johnson, Micheál Rooney. But, the likes of Pat Haverns, the likes of Liam Kerr, like, lads are stepping up, players are stepping up. And there is a real good feel-good factor around Down GAA at the moment, like, especially with the Down under-20s. winning the Ulster Championship yesterday as well. Like there is a feel good factor for Down at the minute, and I think
And
they
it's
are.
crazy how quickly that can change, because I distinctly remember not long ago listening to an episode of your podcast with Johnny Mack. Of course, big shout out to him.
Yeah.
And you were openly talking about Eugene Brannigan's comments, and it really seemed at that time like Down football was at rock bottom, and that was not long ago.
Exactly, and that's why, like I know a lot. Like obviously, I suppose the team everyone's been talking about this year, who's had a huge decline, is Meath, obviously, and Meath, to be fair, Meath's decline has been there for a long time, and Downs had been there for a good while as well. In fairness, and maybe last year Down had hit rock bottom. You know, it felt like it hit rock bottom, getting relegated from Division 2, losing. I don't even think they won a game last year in League, Tailteann, or the Championship. And obviously everything that was said, like in the media about Down GAA and everything else, it felt like, you know, with their management and everything, it felt like a bit of rock bottom. But it does go to show, like, you can turn it around. And I know, like, that's why sometimes I've been critical of, you know, Colm O'Rourke at times, who said loads of stuff about Dublin and we need to split them in two. And even, obviously, we've seen Andy McEntee come on the Sunday game. Like, you know, like, fair enough, to get to something like Dublin's level, you know, is obviously very, very hard, and it's probably never going to be done again. But, you know, you see with counties like Derry, you see the likes of Sligo, Down obviously now as well. Like, you can build, and, you know, if you get your underage right, you get your facilities right, and your promotion of the game right, like, you can kick on. And if you get your club players on side, you can kick on as well. And that's what we're seeing with Down. Like, they're getting their best players now that are playing for the county, and I think it's great, you know, because I think that's the way we want it. We want the best players playing for their county. You know, as good as the club championships are, like, you know, that's what we want to see. And yeah, you know, Down are building something nicely, and even, like, there's no pressure on them in this game as well. You know, all the pressure's on Armagh. Like, they're the side who haven't reached an Ulster final since 2008. And for Down, like, even if they lose this game, they go into the Tailteann Cup probably as favourites. And with the underage players that are there, you know, they're probably the favourites for the All Ireland, the under 20 All Ireland as well, in my opinion. So I think Down are looking pretty good.
Yeah, they certainly are. There's no doubt about that. And I completely agree with what you said about Armagh. Like, all the pressure is on Armagh, because, as you said, for Down, look, while yes, they would want to play in the All Ireland Championship, no doubt about it. It is like, it's not the worst thing in the world if they lose. If they go out and then they go and win the Tailteann Cup, or they go and compete in Croke Park in the Tailteann Cup final, again, it will be bringing on the game and Down and keeping the feel-good factor around the county. I would argue potentially more so than if they went into an All-Ireland Championship group with a Dublin, a Mayo, a Galway, or like, and potentially got 2 or 3 bad defeats in there, and then that could set them back potentially. I think there is a potential in these counties to go a bit too soon. Like, you saw there with the Carlow Rise in the first year, the Carlow Rise, and they got promoted, and then it all went to pot then when they got immediately relegated back down to Division 4. Like, it's one of those things where you have to be ready to jump. And for Down, look, it is Conor Laverty's first year, so I feel like the Tailteann Cup would actually be a good thing, a good competition for them to play in. But on the flip side, I completely agree with what you said about Armagh. Kieran McGeeney has been there since 2015. They haven't made it to an Ulster final. They haven't made it to one since 2008. All the pressure is on him now to achieve something with this side, win something with the likes of Rian O'Neill, with the likes of Jason Duffy, with the likes of Greg McCabe, Jarlath O'Burns, like Ethan Rafferty, superb Gaelic footballers. Like, the pressure is on to win something. And if he gets to an Ulster final, I feel like it would take a bit of the weight off of his shoulders, because Armagh then potentially which is something that would definitely help his chances of extending his tenure out, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, because if Armagh, like, I suppose if they get to an Ulster final, like, I think the main thing will be to be competitive with Derry, and obviously try and beat them. But, like, if they were to get to the Ulster final and get absolutely trashed, like, by 8, 9, 10 points, then you'd say, right, you know, even though they got to an Ulster final, it was very disappointing. But I think, yeah, there is a huge amount of pressure, and it's the draw as well, the way it's opened up. Like, Cavan and Down obviously both started as Division 3 sides. Like, as good as Down have been, and obviously beating Donegal, and, the fact that they obviously do have a lot more sort of togetherness within the county. At the same time, like this Armagh team are a seasoned team now. Like they're no longer an up and coming side. Like Rian O'Neill's been knocking around the block for a couple of years. Rory Grugan, Stephen Campbell, Jardy O'Burns as well. Obviously, Ethan Rafferty only came in last year, but it feels like a team now that's like, if it doesn't happen now, then I don't think it's going to happen at any stage under Kieran McGeeney, to be honest with you. And I think like there are a lot of good managers out there from Armagh. Like look at Ushie McConville. Like he'll be clearly one of the front runners if McGeeney was to leave.
Tony McEntee.
Has equally done a very impressive job with Sligo as well. Could they even go outside the county? I don't know, but there's a lot of good managerial candidates out there. So I think it's huge for McGeeney, huge for the Armagh players, and look, they know it. Like they know how big of a game this is, and obviously a bit of a rivalry with Newry and everything else with Armagh down. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it should be a cracking game.
Completely agree. And what do you think are a couple of the key factors in who can win this game? Like, for example, like Armagh are the obvious favourites. And for anybody who thinks that Armagh aren't favourites, look, yes, Armagh did get relegated. But what I would always say to that is there's a way to get relegated. You look at how Mayo got relegated in 2020 after the pandemic, when Gaelic football came back. Mayo got relegated, but they got relegated playing a really exciting, attacking style of football, introducing a lot of new players into the side. And you knew that, look, they got relegated, cool, but like they will be back. The way that Dublin got relegated even last year, like they took it to the wire against Monaghan, and Monaghan just pipped them to the post, but Dublin went down fighting. But the way that like Donegal went down was exactly the reason why the two of us knew that they were not going to beat down. They went down with a whimper and just put up no fight, no determination, no will to stay up. Like Roscommon beat them by 21 points to 9 in the game where Donegal had nothing to lose. So you knew they're not going to turn it around for the down game. Whereas Armagh did go down fighting in that last game against Tyrone. They battled in every game that they were playing in. They weren't beaten off the park in any game that they played. This is still a good team. And this is why I still think that it's an Armagh side that will have too much for them.
Yeah, like, and I suppose as you were saying there, like in terms of some of the key areas for either side, like I think for Down, like they need to go for Armagh in the opening 15, 20 minutes. Like I think we saw what Cavan tried to do, and they had a lot of men behind the ball, and it just didn't work. It just suited Armagh. Armagh never really faced any adversity. It wasn't like Cavan like pressurized them from kickouts or got in their faces. Threw out a few heavy hits. Like that's what Down need to do. Like Down need to show them that we're here. This is a big game, and they're going to throw in heavy challenges. I wouldn't, I suppose recommend starting a fight or anything of that nature, but maybe just let your man know you're there. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I think Down need to do. Press up on kickouts, pressurize them, and try go for Armagh's throat in the opening 15 to 20 minutes. Because like there's a lot of unknown quantities about Down as well. Like they because like the likes of Ryan Johnston, Eugene Brannigan, like a lot of those lads didn't even play in the league. So it's like a lot of these Armagh lads, although maybe they would have come up against them, like the Crossmaglen lads would have come up against the Kilcoo lads. Like the Kilcoo lads would have always had the edge there as well, like when they would have played each other. And there's a lot of unknown quantities. So like I think if Down can just get after Armagh, especially with there being so much pressure on Armagh as well, they might just, Armagh just might get a bit nervous, and that's what I think Down need to do.
But that's exactly like the point, is that this is an Armagh side as well that hasn't got over the line in the biggest games of their year. They haven't got over the line. And so for Down, they know that this is a game where Armagh need to get over the line. Like Armagh need to get over the line here. And if I was Down here, I'd be playing mind games, especially here. In the same way, I know that it's definitely a bit of a bizarre one to pull in the UFC into this for an example. But say with Dustin Poirier when he fought Conor McGregor, and he just was, you could see him talking to him and saying, "I thought you were going to knock me out by now," or "I thought the fight was going to be over by now. I thought you were going to beat me by now." Like Down should be doing that. Like whoever's on Rian O'Neill, if they're still in it with 20 minutes to go, I'm talking to him. at that stage. I thought you were going to blow us away. I thought you'd be 10 points up by now. What's going on? Like, let them know that they could be squandering this massive opportunity to get into an Ulster final, because they haven't had to go through anyone really that you would have had to go through over the last 5-10 years to get to an Ulster final. They haven't had to go through Tyrone. They haven't had to go through Monaghan. They haven't had to go through Donegal. Like, this is as good a chance as Armagh have had since McGeeney took the reins. And if I was down, I'd be going out there with nothing to lose and just putting all of the pressure on Armagh. Come beat us. That type of, it's all on you to come beat us. And just go for it. Give it your best shot. And because what a lot of Armagh fans, and pretty much any Armagh fan will tell you this, they don't make it easy for themselves. No matter what game they play in, it's always entertaining. So sitting off them like Cavan did and letting them grow into the game and letting Armagh feel like they are the top dog and they are the dominant team, in my opinion, is absolutely not the way to go about it. Get on them, get after them, put the pressure on them, and then immediately start, reminding them that this is such a big game and this is such a big opportunity for them. They cannot possibly lose this game. And they might just get nervous.
Yeah, exactly the point. And like, I know they obviously beat Tyrone and Donegal in the back door last year, but yeah, like they haven't beaten any real big teams in Ulster. And I suppose down at this moment in time, you wouldn't say are one of the big teams, because obviously, they very much are a first year new project and everything else. And we'll see obviously where that goes. But yeah, like it is, big pressure for Armagh, for those players. And even when I spoke with Charlie O'Byrnes earlier in the year, like in an interview on my own show, like I even asked him, like, why do you think Armagh probably have struggled? Has it been pressure? And even he openly admitted and says he can't think of what it wasn't, like he even said. So like there clearly has been a lot of pressure, and it's obviously a football mad county and everything else. But at the same time, look, Armagh clearly have the players to go out there and do it, and pressure should be something you should embrace at the same time. And it's a huge opportunity. It's a big chance to go out there and beat down, put out a statement and show everyone that they're back in business. Like at the start of the year, like a lot of people had Armagh as like all Ireland contenders, dark horses, and the players wise, they definitely they could still do it. Like they if they hit a good bit of form, they're more than capable of challenging any team in the country, in my opinion. But it's just been that their form this year has been very inconsistent, and we've seen at times that the pressure has got to them. But at the same time, like for the likes of O'Neill, Rory Grugan, Stephen Campbell, and more of the experienced heads on that side, like this is where you need to embrace it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Just pressure makes diamonds, as the quote says, and for Armagh, it's time to see if they can handle the ultimate pressure when all the pressure is on them. They are expected to win this game, make no mistake about it, which brings me nicely to the prediction. So what are we thinking? Can Armagh get over the line in this game where they are favourites, or can Down pull off another upset?
Yeah, like I was very tempted in my own preview show to actually predict Down, but like I do think Armagh are just a bit ahead of Down as of right now, and I think it's hard to really know it Down because there is a lot of unknowns there. Like as you said, like Donegal have just been in ruins, and like Down beat them and beat them very well, and you can't take anything away from them. But it's hard to really know because Down have been playing in Division 3. They didn't get out of Division 3. Like they would have been playing teams of a lot lower standard to what Armagh were playing this year. So it's hard to. It's a bit like Derry a couple of years ago. You don't really know what level they're just at just yet. So you'd have to imagine like if Rian O'Neill is fit and starts, Armagh bring their A game, which they have to, because like this is a do or die situation for Kieran McGeeney in terms of his job really. Like so, I think Armagh will win by 2 or 3 points. I don't think it will be plain sailing. I think there'll be bumps in the road. I think Down will take the lead at different stages in the game. But I think Armagh should just have the edge to see it through.
Yeah, I go with Armagh. I think they're going to make it more difficult for themselves than it needs to be, but I still think they will get over the line. So we are predicting that the Ulster final of 2023 will be Derry against Armagh. That should be definitely an entertaining one to watch. So then we're going to switch over to the East and go to the Leinster semi-finals. And we're going to start with the formality. Is it too harsh to call it? Dublin against Kildare. Like, go back to this time last year. Kildare had beaten Dublin in the league. And going into that Leinster final, people were giving Dublin like chances of being beaten in this game. They were giving Kildare a very good chance of getting a victory against Dublin. Kildare went man to man. They got brave. 5 goals later, all of a sudden the narrative has completely changed. And Kildare had a pretty rough league, I think it's safe to say, and only pulled away from Wicklow really in the last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, like I was keeping an eye on Scorpio, like just keeping an eye on the score, like, and it was 10 points to 5, obviously at one stage in the game. So yeah, no, I do agree. I think Kildare, I just think Kildare have regressed a good bit from last season. Like, I think when you look at it, they obviously beat Dublin in the league, which was a massive win, a massive victory. But I think they just got too carried away, to be honest with you, because like in the Leinster final, they were just absolutely picked apart, blown to pieces. I think 5 goals they conceded in the first half of the game. And like that's the worry from a Kildare perspective, is that like not only defensively have they not sorted out their problems, but also like Jimmy Hoyland hasn't been playing for the past while. I don't know if it's an injury or what's going on. Daniel Flynn seems to be coming in now of the team. Is he, like, obviously he was playing Australian football for a couple of years. Is he really that interested right now in Kildare? I don't know if he is. They've got, they do have the underage though, and that's the thing with Kildare. Like the under-20s won the Leinster title the other night, beating Dublin again, and obviously they won it last year as well, getting to a final. So there is players coming through, like, and Kildare fans should be optimistic about the future. But I think the worry is that when the goings got tough and they've shipped a couple of early goals, they fell to pieces. Happened against Cork, happened against Derry, happened against Dublin and Leinster last year. When you look at what Dublin did to Laois, like they'll do the exact same in this. They'll go for Kildare right for the opening 15-20 minutes. And to be honest with you, I think it could be over after about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Leinster final last year, that was exactly the same. And one of the funniest takes that I seen on that game was someone saying, "Oh, well, if you take the goals away, it's I was like, what? All 5 of the goals, you're gonna take them away? How far does that logic go?" But yeah, I don't know. Like, I can see the game going pretty similarly to how it went last year. Or could Kildare potentially come into this and sit back and go defensive? Like, that's the only thing, is that I haven't seen Kildare really do that ever under Glenn Ryan.
I think they have to. I think they have to. Like, and in fairness, they did do that a little bit it was kind of the game in the league in Croke Park was kind of a weird game because Dublin actually played very defensive, more so than Kildare. And the one time Dublin actually went after Kildare, they got a goal through Brian Fenton. So Dublin just played completely within themselves that day. So it was hard to really judge. Like Dublin never really went after them, but yeah, no, I think they do. They have to go defensive. Because I think at the same time, like, I know a consolidation defeat is always a tricky one. And I know Cork fans have had this conundrum when they've played Kerry in the past and Meath a little bit as well. But like Meath and Kildare have gone toe to toe with Dublin a lot of the time over the last couple of years. And they've just been blown away. Like, I think for Kildare's confidence, like it's like if results go their way this weekend, they're going to be going in as a pot 4 team. I think you'd rather go in to that group stages a 6, 7, 8 point defeat, keep every man behind the ball, accept that you're beaten, and then go into that group stages with maybe a bit more confidence, and maybe you stick in the game, and then in the final, 15 minutes, you go for it. Then you throw the shackles off. We see what happened a couple of years ago when Meath. To be fair, Meath really didn't sit in too much in that game, but they stayed in the game, and then all of a sudden it was 2-3 points going down the home stretch. So, yeah, no, I think
that was the Dublin team that liked to pass the ball around and keep teams in the game.
Yeah,
this is a different Dublin side. It's hard to know how they win this game, because if they sit back and go defensive, I haven't seen them do that before, and I can see Dublin then just pinging the ball around, taking 2 minutes per possession and sticking it over the back.
And the worrying thing is as well is if that doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? Like, if imagine you set up to go defensive, you're working on all these a new system basically during training, defensive positioning, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you can see a couple of early goals. It all just goes out the window, and it's like, well, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that is the problem for Kildare. Like I think they do need to set up that way, but at the same time, there's unfortunately, I just don't think there's any way. There's just no right way.
I don't
for
think they've
Kildare
given
to
themselves
go about this
anywhere
game.
near enough time to get used to the defensive
No.
system. Like they've gone from being quite a gun-ho attacking team and
At the same
pretty.
time, like, sorry to cut across you, but
Go for it.
at the same time, Dublin have conceded goals in every game this year, other than Kildare and Derry, which were in Croke Park, funnily enough. So, like, Kildare can't take inspiration from that. Like, Dublin are shipping a lot of goals. I know the two
Kildare
goals.
should have scored a goal that night as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they hit the post, I remember, with an opportunity. So, like, look, they can take some inspiration from that, but it's just, it's just so hard to see Kildare doing that, and really.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of pick your poison. If you sit back, Dublin will, box you in and they will pick up, point after point after point. And if you go man to man, Dublin will go for the neck in the first 15 minutes. The one thing that I think is massively important is Kildare need to get through, and I'm going to recycle a bit of analysis that I've used for other games, but they need to get through the first 15, 20 minutes without conceding a goal. They need to get through that period without letting Dublin hit them really, really hard. Because if Dublin get a goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, this game is done. This game is done. If Dublin build up a run of momentum on them, it's over before it even begins. So Kildare need to make sure that at halftime they are no more than 4 points behind, and then just go for it in the second half. I still would think go for it. They have some very, very good forwards, and look, just give it your best shot. Don't leave anything out on the pitch, because they must have been very unhappy with last year's Leinster final. Hang in there, go win at halftime, no more than 4 points behind. Try and hang in the game until the 50th minute, and then just go for it. They have quality players: Kevin Feely, Daniel Flynn. Hopefully Jimmy Hyland is back in the team for this game. Mick O'Grady is a great defender. He should go straight on to Conor O'Callaghan. Just do better than you did last year. Don't get annihilated in the first 15, 20 minutes. Don't concede 5 goals. And then you should be way closer than they were last year if they try and go in with that mentality. But yeah, I think it's fairly easy to say that we both are picking Dublin to win this game, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I think 10 plus, I think, to be honest with you. I think if Kildare can get it under 10 points, I know moral victories are sort of a thing I don't really like, to be honest with you, but maybe that's easy to say as a Dublin fan. But at the same time, I think if they can get it under 10 points, they'll be happy going into the group stage.
Yeah, I'm going Dublin by 8. I think Kildare will be a little bit more cagey, but I still think Dublin will hit the back of the net in the first half, and that will put Kildare in a position where they won't be able to pull the game back in the second half, and Dublin will just kind of put it into cruise control for the second half and coast to a Leinster final appearance, where they will face one of Louth or Offaly, 2 teams. Six, or Louth getting to their first Leinster final since 2010. And both teams had fantastic victories in the quarterfinal. Both defied my predictions, so thanks very much for that. I predicted that it would be a Meath versus Westmeath Leinster semi-final, so serious amount of egg on my face for this prediction. But how are we feeling about this game?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Like as I was saying to you off air, like I'm going to the Dublin game, obviously this Sunday, and to be honest with you, I'm more looking forward to this game. I'm definitely going to get there for this game, because like it is such a huge game for either county. Like there definitely is history on the line. Like obviously, Louth and Offaly are both 2 counties that are building very, very nicely. Like Offaly, Louth haven't really had like underage success necessarily. But Mickey Hart's just finding players. He's getting players through the door there, like Darragh McConnon, Conor Grimes, and Samuel Roy. We knew was an excellent footballer before Mickey Hart came in, but he's added so much more to his game now as well. And obviously for Offaly, I felt like a win for them against Meath was something that they were definitely building towards. Like, you have a lot of lads in that team now who won that under-20 All-Ireland a couple of seasons ago. You still have experienced lads like Bernard Allen and Anton Sullivan and these guys, but at the same time, you felt like Offaly were building towards something. So it's huge, it's massive. And I know, obviously, going into Croke Park, you'd imagine, obviously, Dublin will win the Leinster Championship, but at the same time, be a great occasion for either one of the Louth and Offaly fans to get a day out in Croke Park, go in obviously as a pot 2 side, and then have a real possibility to do something special in the All Ireland series. And yeah, I think it's a huge game for either county, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the same here. On the topic of the Leinster quarterfinals, of course, Offaly beat Meath, and they basically did the work in the first half. I think they were 1-8 to 2 points up at halftime, like a crazy scoreline at halftime. And let's not beat around the bush here. Meath were awful in the first half. It took them 22 minutes to get their first point. Matthew Costello with that score. But how big of a hand do you feel that Offaly had in that halftime scoreline? Like, were they also that good, or were Meath just way off the pace? Like, how much can we read into that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Like you definitely can't say that Meath weren't poor or weren't terrible, because they clearly were. Like, only 2 points in, the first half against the Division 3 side who didn't even get promoted. So you like. But at the same time, Meath are at that level now. That's the level that they're at now. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're probably lucky to be in Division 2 next year, in all honesty. But I think you have to commend Offaly, though, at the same time, because they went into that game knowing there was an opportunity, knowing if they started fast, knowing if they went for Meath and got on the back foot, they could cause a lot of problems. Like, I've only seen brief highlights of the game, so I don't know the exact ways the game went in terms of, like what way the game was. But obviously, as you said, like 1-8 to 2 points at half time, and they were dominant. They're absolutely dominant, and they wiped the floor with Meath, and they came for them, and there was no fear. There was no fear whatsoever. And I think that's what we need to see more of, as well, as like, especially when sides are playing Meath, Kildare. I know it's tricky with Dublin because they probably are just too far ahead, where you could show no fear and still get bet by 10, 15 points. But like, I think this is what we need to see more of, is, rather than sides sitting in and everything else. I know we were saying that about Kildare, but again, I think it's different when you're playing one of the top teams. But when it's sides around a similar level, you just need to go for it. And that's what Offaly did. And like Anton Sullivan, Bernard Allen, Rory Egan, I think, scored 1-1 that day as well. So Offaly are, like this, especially with the underage success as well. A result like this was coming. And that's why, although Louth, you'd imagine, will be slight favourites in this game, I think this game in Croke Park actually probably suits Offaly more, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think Offaly play a bit more of an expansive attacking style of football than Louth do. One of the most interesting things that is being slept on going into this game is these sides actually played each other quite recently. Like, if memory serves, it was either last year or 2 years ago that they played each other. I want to say it was 2 years ago. And it was in Mickey Hart's first year with the Louth team, and it was a cracking game, and it went to extra time, and Offaly got the rub of the green that day and managed to get through. Can we take anything from that game into this game, or is it completely non-applicable? Because obviously Mickey Hart has transformed Louth since that game, and Offaly have also changed a lot as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, all right. Like, yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, and Louth or Offaly won after extra time. And then I remember they played Kildare the next game, in the next game, and lost that quite narrowly. So, like it probably is two sides that, like, although Louth have done really well, but I think Louth have done really well because of how well Mickey Hart has set them up. Not to take anything away from their players, but like, they're just set up very, very well. They're set up very hard to be. They're set up as an Ulster team, and I honestly do believe a lot more counties, Gaelic football counties, need to start looking at what counties are doing in Ulster, because, like, you're getting so many top managers, so many top players. The championship is always at the highest order. The club teams that come out of there are phenomenal. Like, I really think the likes of, Leinster counties should start looking at what's happening, and it's no coincidence Mickey Hart comes into Louth, has them set up like an Ulster team, and they're winning matches, and maybe it's not always the most prettiest football in the world to watch, but it gets results, and they finished third in Division 2. They were competitive enough against Dublin in that final game in the league. You know, and you know, they're getting the best out of the players that they have, and Samuel Roy, Connor Grimes, Liam Jackson. Like it's going really, really well. So yeah, like I think Loud are looking good for this one.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing that I would look at is Loud actually for a second for periods of the game against Dublin were actually, you know, making it interesting. And it was like, okay, that we could have a new challenger here. And it was one of those things where you were looking at it saying, how did the Meath and Kildare county boards like watch Mickey Hart go to Louth and just do nothing? Like, why did they not even offer him the job? Is look at how he's transformed Louth from a Division 4 side to a side that could have been promoted from Division 2 after back-to-back promotions. Like, and Division 3 champions. And now, like, they could be on for a Leinster final. And you look now, Meath and Kildare have gone backwards since then as well. Like, it's one of those things where you're looking, how did they not pull the trigger? Or is it just a case of they maybe wanted to keep it inside the county that the management team was? Like, which is something that, look, I do agree with. I do like the idea of, you know, like a Kildare man managing Kildare. And I do like that idea. But at the same time, Louth are being rewarded for hiring Mickey Hart. He's bringing in his absolute expertise.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, I think bringing in a man inside the county, it works a lot of the time, but there are times I think when you need to mix it up. Like, I think if you've had a man from the county, you know, for too long and it's just not working, then why not bring in an outside man? Like I think with Meath and Kildare, I think because they're, especially Meath, are such a big historic county where there's a lot of pride. They're obviously, you know, one of the most successful counties in the history of the sport in terms of All-Ireland wins. You know, there was a time where they were the best team consistently in the country, you know, back in the 90s and 80s and everything else. And I think there's probably a sense of pride there from the fans and the county board, where they believe that they're good enough. They believe they've good enough coaches and they believe they've good enough players. And you can understand that to a certain degree, because you do need that belief a lot of the time. But clearly it's not working. You know, there just isn't enough good coaches in Meath, I don't think. I think the fact that they went to Colm O'Rourke probably shows that, because there wasn't really many other people out there.
And the fact he literally said he didn't want to. Like,
yeah,
they must have begged him to take that job.
Pretty much. So, like, that's why, like, why can't Kildare or Meath go for a Malachi O'Rourke or something of that nature, and maybe try and take Jim McGuinness, take them up a notch. Like, maybe those managers wouldn't find Meath or Kildare that attractive, but at least need to put your hand in the pot. And like, especially when Mickey Hart went to Louth, like, I think I heard somewhere his family connections in Louth, and obviously the commute isn't too far from where he'd be based in. I presume he lives in Toronto. I'm not totally sure, actually, to be honest with you, where he actually lives. But like, yeah, you know, but Louth went in for it. They went for it, you know, and that's what you have to do. Like, you have to be bold, and like, fair play to, I think Peter Fitzpatrick is the Louth GAA chairman. Fair play to him for actually having the balls to go for him, because there wasn't anyone else that even thought of that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. That was an absolutely sensational appointment. And you could argue one of the best that has been made in the last decade. Like, I would go that far to say that he has absolutely transformed Louth. And which brings me nicely on to this. Do we think they're going to win this game? Louth are Offaly to join Dublin in the Leinster Final 2023. Which one would you lean towards?
I'd lean towards Louth, just because I think they've had more progress in the last couple of seasons. They've definitely been building towards this. They have a good amount of experience now playing in Croke Park as well. Like, Offaly played in Croke Park against Derry, obviously, in that Division 3 final. I think it was a half full stadium because of COVID. I think it might have been 20% capacity or something of that nature.
Cup as well.
Tailteann Cup, obviously, as well. Actually forgot about that one. And actually they got fairly beaten quite comfortably against Westmeath, actually, in that game as well.
That Louth beat.
Yeah. So look, no, I think I'd back Louth. I think they're coming in. Samuel Roy is fit now as well. They've all their best players available to them. I think Offaly, like, beating Meath was huge. It would have took a lot out of them, I'm sure. Now to go again, obviously, another week later. So I think Louth, like, because Louth will be defensively strong, they'll frustrate Offaly. They'll hit them on the break, and yeah, I just think Louth will pick Offaly apart and reach the Leinster final.
Yeah, I'll jump on the bandwagon now. I predicted Westmeath to beat Louth. I just thought Westmeath would kick up when the championship comes. And to be fair, at halftime, Westmeath were 8 points up. I thought I'd picked
Yeah.
brilliantly, and then it all went to pot in the second half for them. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Louth to get over the line narrowly in this game. I do think there is an argument there that Offaly's attacking style would suit them more in Croke Park. But I do think that Louth will get over the line to make it a Dublin versus Louth Leinster final for 2023. A replay of that last game, of course, which took place in Division 2 at Croke Park, and should be, again, just as interesting. So we're going to switch codes now, moving across to the hurling. We're going to go down south to the Munster Championship, and the game really that everybody cannot wait to watch. A replay of last year's Munster final, which is one of the best games that I have ever seen. Limerick against Clare. The rivalry on the Shannon, definitely one of the best rivalries in our game. And really, Aaron, if we're going off previous meetings between these two teams, the two matches last year between these two were epics, both of them.
They were, yeah, and I think we were all probably a little bit disappointed when Kilkenny beat Clare as well in the All Ireland semi-finals, that we didn't get a trilogy in the final. Yeah. No disrespect to any Kilkenny fans or anything of that nature, but yeah, no, like I'm really looking forward to it. You know, has the makings of, you know, the fact it's match day 2 as well. The fact that Clare, like, there's been some added spice as well. Like the fact that Clare obviously got beat in the opening day versus Tipperary. The fact that Limerick weren't at their best against Waterford, probably flatter to deceive. Maybe arguably should have been beat on the day. Like, and it has the feelings of a bit of a knockout game in some ways, because if Limerick win, they're on 4 points. Clare are on nothing. All of a sudden, Clare are relying on winning their last 2 games, but possibly relying on results from elsewhere as well. And especially for Brian Lohan and the body of work he's done with Clare over the last couple of seasons, to go out in the Munster round robin would be a huge disappointment. Look, the Munster round robin is so fierce. There's so many good teams in there, so you kind of feel bad for the sides that miss out. But no, it has the makings of an absolute classic game. Obviously in the Gaelic grounds as well. I'd imagine the tickets are sold out. And yeah, like, it's going to be hugely entertaining. Like, Tony Kelly was quiet enough, I felt, against Tipperary, so it'll be interesting. He usually has a good game against Limerick, to be fair. He usually steps up. I think it'd be interesting to see what goalkeeper Clare go with as well. Obviously, Eamon Footy, you know, making his championship debut. It didn't go quite so planned, obviously, with the 3 early goals. So it'd be interesting to see if they switch it up. And yeah, no, I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, no, I really like your point about Tony Kelly. I just think Cathal Barrett is a really tough matchup for Tony Kelly. I think he's very well equipped to follow him everywhere on the pitch. He's a very good matchup for Tony Kelly, and that's why whenever Clare have played Tip, Cathal Barrett has done quite a good job on Tony Kelly. Like, you think back to the 2021 meeting where Aidan McCarthy gave away that penalty, and then Cathal Barrett also did a very good job on Tony Kelly that day as well. And look, Kelly will always have his moments. He's that type of player. But the one thing that is also a little bit worrying is I don't think he looks 100% fit at all. Like, he didn't look fit in that game against Tip. And then I do agree with you. The fact that Clare are coming into this game needing to win adds in the spice. But look, if anybody, I feel like, is there any rival that maybe Limerick dislike more than this Clare team right now? Because the battles that they had last year, like the rivalry between these two sides, surely Limerick will up their game for Clare.
Yeah, probably is Clare right now, you'd imagine. I'd imagine it switches probably from week to week. Limerick have had a lot of rivals in the last couple of years. Like, you feel like Waterford at one point were their closest rivals. Tipperary were the ones that took their All-Ireland from them in 2019, although they didn't beat them. They were the ones who won the All-Ireland that season. And then Cork, like, you know, Cork fans at times on social media can be some of the loudest. And they tend to not give Limerick a great reception anytime they play them at home, booing their players and everything else. So there's definitely is a rivalry there as well. But then again, it's probably Cork that hate Limerick more than Limerick hate Cork. But yeah, no, I think this probably is it, you'd imagine, especially after last season as well, like the whole things that happened in the round robin game with Geroid Hegarty. Then obviously in the final as well, like, there's been a lot of spotlight and refereeing decisions. And obviously that was the same for Limerick against Waterford again. So Yeah, like I think it's gonna be a fierce game. Two teams that know each other very well, two managers that know each other very well, and like you're expecting this to be a game of the weekend across the entirety of the GAA, surely.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the things that I wanted to stress in this one is, how do you think that the Clare half back line is going to deal with this Limerick half forward line? Garrod, Hegarty, Keane Lynch, and Tom Morrissey. And I'm going to branch into, of course, Clare might have been dealt a very nice hand there by Brian Lohan's arch nemesis, Davy Fitz. Of course, last week with Waterford, like Waterford did pretty well against Limerick, as you said, and arguably could have won that game. Surely Brian Lohan has been studying that game ever since. And is there anything that you think he might try and implement in this game? For me, the first thing, the very, very first thing you should implement is what Waterford did with Barry Nash. Implement that immediately.
Yeah, I think so. Like, because you saw like with Nicky Quaid and his puck outs, like usually it's very easy for him to spot a man, to pick a man. There's a man free, and usually what a lot of teams do is they try to press up on Limerick, whereas Waterford just completely sat off, and sort of allowed them to pick their spaces, and then obviously pressed once the man got the ball. So, no, I think that's what they need to do. I think the main thing for Clare actually, as well as that, is like obviously the turnovers were key, but just taking their chances, taking their opportunities, because if Waterford had been 50% more clinical on that day, they would have won the game. Like they had probably, I think, around 15 wides, and they only lost the game by 2 points. Like Waterford probably could have won this by 7 or 8. Do you know what I mean? Like they could have won this comfortably. And I think with Limerick, because they've been so good for so long, they've won 3 All-Irelands in a row, 3 Munster titles in a row as well, or 4 Munster titles in a row, I think it is now.
Yeah,
like it does remind me a bit of Dublin at times, where when Meath and Kildare, obviously these sides are at different levels, but Meath and Kildare would play us at times, and everything else in Leinster, or even in the All-Ireland series when we play Mayo or Galway or Tyrone or these teams, like they'd get into great positions, great chances, but they'd almost panic because it's like, oh my God, we're like, we have a chance here. We might actually be able to beat the Dubs, and teams would panic. And that's why even when Mayo beat us in 2021, they weren't even brilliant. It was more so that Dublin imploded. And I think you're seeing that now when teams are playing Limerick, where Waterford just almost panicked going down the home stretch because they couldn't quite believe that they had an opportunity here to actually beat them. They couldn't believe their luck that Desi Hutchinson was just getting free pucks in front of goal, and Austin Gleeson was being afforded so much space. So I think that's the main thing for Clare, is that they need to hold their nerve. And I think if they do, like they have a good chance.
Agreed. And like to add on to that, like Alex Ferguson used to say, when Manchester United were at their peak, he used to say that their name alone got them 12 points a season, because teams would panic if they were 1-0 up against United in the last few minutes. And for Limerick, they definitely have that aura about them. Like, imagine going on and marking Garrod Hegarty, or marking Keane Lynch, or marking Aaron Gallan, and just seeing all the players that have gone on and marked them before and just been completely roasted. Like, they do have that aura, that fear factor about them. And just on matchups in general, which matchups are you actually looking forward to the most? Like me personally, I can't wait to see who picks up Aaron Gallan. Will they put Conor Cleary on him? Like, that would be some battle. And then Tony Kelly, whoever picks him up, if he's back to full fitness, will also be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think obviously, as you said, like the Conor Cleary, Aaron Gallan matchup, I think would be very interesting. Even looking as well as to who could pick up a Garrod Hegarty. Could McInerney maybe pick him up? Could it be John Conlon possibly as well? Like there is a lot of very fascinating matchups, all right. And Hegarty tends to, I suppose, be at the center of attention in a lot of these games, whether it's for good or bad reasons. And I've just got a sneaky feeling he can have a big game this weekend as well. But I think a player that like Limerick need to worry about, I think, is Aidan McCarthy as well. Like, I think he's been Clare's best player this season. Like, I think he's been in brilliant form. But the thing about Limerick is that and even like from watching Limerick a good bit, they never really place too much emphasis on stopping the opposition. Like, they'll never completely take Tony Kelly out of the game. Like, Tony Kelly tends to have a great game against Limerick because they let him do what he wants, but Limerick just focus on what they want to do. But at the same time, I think it'll be interesting to see who picks up Aidan McCarthy as well. Mark Rogers, obviously, a couple of goals the last day. He's been a good sort of up and coming player. So, Yeah, like I think there's a lot of fascinating matchups in around the back. Like maybe Sean Finn could pick up someone like Aidan McCarthy. That could be an interesting matchup. And then Barry Nash maybe goes on Tony Kelly. Although Tony Kelly does like to drift a bit deeper, like maybe then do you go like Dan Morrissey? I think there's a lot of interesting permutations for this one.
For sure. And yeah, without further ado, who is going to win this one?
I think Limerick. I think Limerick will do it by 5 or 6. To be honest with you, just because I think like the result was perfect combined with the performance versus Waterford was perfect for Limerick, because like they were poor on the day, they weren't great, and they still won the game. So they have so much lessons to be learned. And even with John Coyley in his post-match interview, like even though he was talking about, all the nonsense and everything that everyone's talking about, he looked really angry. And I think he was more, that was anger from the performance, to be honest with you. So I just think Limerick at home in the Gaelic grounds, like they're going to come out flying out of traps. And it's going to be no messing about for Limerick, which is disappointing for Clare, because Clare probably would have rather played them last week. But I think Limerick are just going to come flying out of traps, and Clare will have their moments, no doubt. And maybe with the fact that Tony Kelly isn't looking at his best, yeah, I just think Limerick will be too strong.
Agreed. I'm going Limerick to win this game. Just as you said, in the Gaelic grounds, the possibility of potentially pushing Clare towards being knocked out in the provincial championships as well, the team that is probably their biggest rival right now. Yeah, I'm going for Limerick to not let this opportunity pass them by and to make it 2 from 2, which brings us nicely on to the other match in Munster, Cork versus Waterford. And personally, I'm just saying this before we get into the preview, I can't wait to see Cork in the championship. I'm really excited to see what they bring to the championship this year. I mean, obviously, the management there, Pat Ryan, the amount of talk about him bringing through new hurlers, the likes of Tommy O'Connell looks really, really good. Ben Cunningham, other players that have come into the Cork panel. And yeah, I'm also really excited to see, players from 2021. Will the likes of Jack O'Connor come back into the side strong? Will he, re-emerge as a serious player in this Cork side, going up against a Waterford team that I think definitely ran Limerick a lot closer than a lot of people thought they would.
Yeah, and I think the problem for Cork is that, especially when you look at Waterford or even Clare, I think both of those two managers know who their best starting 15 are, and they kind of have a core group of players, whereas Cork seem to have so many options, so many players, and I think it's, Pat Ryan is probably struggling early on with the same sort of problems that I think Kieran Kingston struggled with in terms of players, because even at times, there just seems to be a bit of an inconsistency about Cork. Like you've got Shane Kingston, who at times is looking brilliant, and he's out of the team, and you don't know why he's out of the team. Patrick Horgan, for a while there, even Matthew Hurley was saying on my show last year, like he needs to be dropped. And then he was dropped and Cork looked better, but then he's looked good at times this year as well. So you don't really know what to do with him. I just think with Cork, there's a lot of missing pieces, almost too many pieces to the jigsaw. And they don't know how to put all these players together. As you said, they've had a wealth of underage success in the last couple of years. And you've seen some of those players like Ben Cunningham, Jack O'Connor, Patrick Powers, another skillful hurler as well, who's made the breakthrough. And it's just tough for Pat Ryan to gel them all together, I think. And I think that's the issue. Whereas Waterford, coming in with a game under their belt, although Davy Fitz is in his first season, and it's a core group of players that have been there for a couple of years now. And yeah, it's a tough one. But the thing is, Cork's attack is deadly. And in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, I could definitely see them opening up Waterford more than once.
Yeah, without doubt. I do agree with that. Yeah, no, but which players do you think could play the key instant in this game? Now, obviously, remember Austin Gleeson was sent in at a crucial time in that Limerick game. Could he play more of a role from the start in this one, do you think?
Yeah, I think he could. And I think it was maybe a bit of, I suppose, a bit of classic Davy Fitz, obviously, and Waterford trying to, sell the lie that Ozzie Gleeson wasn't fully fit, and then there he is in the team. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. He didn't look at 100%, but at the same time, he still played. He still featured in the game, and at the end of the day, these Munster round robin games are so important. You need your best players fit and available for every match, and you'd imagine he will play a part in the game. But like I think Desi Hutchinson, as I've said on previous shows and numerous times, I think he's one of the best hurlers on his day when you can get him in the game. And I think the problem for Waterford is they haven't got the best out of him, in my opinion, under this system for Davy Fitz. And I think Waterford are more focused on stopping the opposition rather than focusing on their strengths. And that's why I don't really think Davy is suited to Waterford, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I think they need someone who's going to play a bit more expansive, a bit more attacking type hurling, because that's what they're strong at. So yeah, you'd imagine Austin Gleeson will have a big impact on the game, but at the same time, they need the likes of Desi Hutchinson, Stephen Bennett, these lads to step up and forward, because they definitely did miss forward last day.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And when we get now to predictions, I'll take the lead first on this, and I won't keep putting you on the spot. I'll go with Cork to win this one. I feel like I completely agree with what you've said about Davy Fitz, and I think styles make fights, and maybe Waterford's style was pretty good to go up against Limerick and to make it that type of close game. But I still feel like Waterford don't really let their forwards go in these games. Yeah. And look, the reality is they didn't hit the back of the net against Limerick, and they have so many. You think Michael Kiley scored 4 goals in the Fitzgibbon final? Like, they have so much talent up front, and they don't really maximize it. Whereas Cork looked really exciting going forward in the league, and I'm just about going to go with Cork to win this one.
Yeah, no, I'd back Cork as well. I think I can see Cork just opening them up in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, like big open space. I think there'll be. I could see Cork scoring 3 or 4 goals. To be honest with you, and I think it would be too much damage for Waterford to handle. And I just think it's it's hard to know if Davy will get things right with Waterford. It's his record in the Munster Championship actually isn't particularly brilliant. Actually, when you look at it. And I've always been a big admirer of Davy, but I think at the same time you have to look at it and think it hasn't quite worked out just yet. I don't know if he's entirely suited to Waterford. And obviously, like, with the fact that they've been playing in Thurles, their home games in Thurles as well, I think that will go against them. I think they're much more suited to a tight pitch like Walsh Park. But yeah, I'll go with Cork. I think they'll be far too strong.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Cork take this one. And remarkably, if results go how we have predicted them to go, that's both Clare and Waterford, 2 hugely talented, brilliant hurling teams, push towards a potential exit after only round 2, which is a remarkable situation to end up in. We're going to move across then to the Leinster Championship, the best game in the Leinster Championship from the weekend, no doubt about it, will be Kilkenny against Galway. This game is going to be an absolute classic. And I'm just going to throw a bit of a curveball question at you. What do you think Henry Shefflin's mindset will be going into this game? Because obviously last year, every meeting with Kilkenny was Shefflin against Cody. Like, I remember the Leinster final, they had just the cameras just zoomed in on the two of them during the whole pre-match talk. Like, it was all about them. Now it's Derek Ling, and I feel like there was an alternate universe there where if Shefflin had a kind of hung back from the Galway job for a little while, I think he would have got the Kilkenny job over Ling. I think he could argue that if he had it kind of waited around maybe one more year, I think he could have got that job. So what would his mindset be going into this game?
I think first of all, it's probably relief that he's not going to be asked a wealth of questions about Brian Cody, and he can actually focus on the game, and there'll be no background noise, because you'd imagine
just make sure Shefflin to shake Derek Ling's hand.
yeah. Make sure there's no issues there. But yeah, I don't know the personal relationship between them two, but I'd imagine it's all fine, and I'm sure even if it wasn't, they wouldn't want to create a story or a narrative out of it. But yeah, no, like I think it's interesting, all right, and I still believe that Henry Shefflin will manage Kilkenny one day. I think it's a nailed on certainty, in my opinion. And I'm sure that plays in Derek Ling's mind as well. Like, it's his first season. Kilkenny have got a very, very good squad, one of the best in the country. They've added to it this year with the likes of Billy Drennan coming in. Young Pádraig Walsh's look very good as well. They have the Ballyhale lads who've come back in the side now as well. So I think Derek Ling will be thinking, look, he'll want to sort of show Henry and Galway at the same time that this is my Kilkenny, this is my team, and because if things go bad for Kilkenny, you just never know. Henry might be the go-to guy, and you've seen with Liam Cahill, like as soon as the rumors start and the opportunities come available, like Henry won't think twice. Like he's a Kilkenny man through and true. Like there'll be no shame in leaving Galway behind if he has to. I'm sure he wants to succeed there, but if he has to jump ship, I'm sure he will. So yeah, no, I think it'll be a very, very interesting game. Like obviously TJ Reid's back in the side now, Adrian Mullen, Owen Cody as well. Like I think Adrian Mullen is probably one of the most underrated hurlers in the country, in my opinion. And I think he could do serious damage to Galway. And I think it's important for Galway because Galway, like, although they beat Kilkenny in the round robin game last year, like there wasn't too much meaning behind that game. And then when you look at it, lost to Kilkenny in the Leinster final, beat Cork in the quarterfinals, but Cork were the better team that day and should have won. And then in the semi-finals, they played well against Limerick, but still lost. So there is pressure on Henry Shefflin. He needs to start getting big wins for Galway. I think it's similar enough to Cork, where there's a lot of players, a lot of underage in the last couple of years. And there's been a phasing out of other players as well. So, no, I think it's a big game for both Galway and Kilkenny.
Completely agree. And you did say there about Derek Lang, and I completely agree. It is his team. And he made some very, very big changes to the Kilkenny side in the league. And just talk to me about them changes. The first one, Pádraig Walsh immediately deployed back to centre half back. And then also going forward, new stars, Billy Drennan, obviously the main one. How do you think they're going to get on in this game?
Yeah, I think it'll be key. Like I think Billy Drennan was injured the last day, so I'm not entirely sure if he'll start for this one. But no, I think some big players that you mentioned there. And I think it's important for Kilkenny to start strong, start fast. I think Galway will need to contain Kilkenny for probably the opening 15-20 minutes. And yeah, like I think it'd be interesting to see like who picks up TJ Reid, like what's the scenario there, like especially with the fact that there probably still is a bit of rustiness maybe there as well. First game back versus Westmeath, which was probably the ideal game actually from a TJ Reid and Kilkenny perspective. So it'd be interesting to see as well. Like, but the problem is like if you focus too much on TJ Reid, you've got Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen. Like if Billy Drennan is fit, he'll come into the side. You've just got so many options. John Donnelly as well, who's looked very good. Mossy Keown. Like Kilkenny have a wealth of options. And it'd be very hard to see how Galway contain them. And like when you look at forwards wise, Kilkenny, like I can name 5, 6, 7 players for Kilkenny off the top of my head who could do damage for Galway. Whereas for Galway, I look at it and think, Conor Whelan on his day, Evan Noylan looks all right, but does he do enough from play? Brian Concannon's been a little bit inconsistent. You've obviously got Joseph Cooney as well, but like there's not enough there for Galway just yet, in my opinion. I think Kilkenny have more killers than Galway do.
Yeah, which brings us to prediction time, and judging off that, I feel like you're gonna go with Kilkenny to win this one against Galway.
Yeah, I think Kilkenny will be far too strong, in my opinion. Look, Galway might be able to do a number on Kilkenny and turn them over. The fact it is round robin as well, and it's different to Munster in the fact that there's not as much jeopardy here. So you might see a slight element of shadow boxing ever so slightly, but no, I'll go for Kilkenny to get the win.
Yeah, no, I think that, look, Galway did look good against Wexford at times in that opening game. And they did get hit early with those 2 Wexford goals. And I feel like that does suggest a potential vulnerability in the Galway defence. And I feel with the form of Kilkenny's forwards, that does spell trouble. And I am going to go with Kilkenny to get a narrow victory, very narrow victory, but a victory all the same. And then we're going to go through the last 2 games from the Leinster Championship in relatively quickly, because I feel like these 2 games, Wexford against Antrim and Dublin against Westmeath, I feel like they both should be victories for the home team. And let's start with Wexford against Antrim. Look, Antrim did draw with Dublin and should have won. They should have beaten them, no doubt about that. Keane O'Sullivan hit an equaliser for Dublin in the 75th minute of the game. But I just feel like, looking down through the years, Antrim away from home have been far more beatable than in Corrigan Park and Belfast. Can they break that chain in this game?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I suppose if the chain was to be broken, you'd probably look at this game. I'm not too sure where they're playing Westmeath, but with all due respect, I don't think that game really counts in terms of the big counties. Like this is probably one of them. But like you could argue, like Antrim are on an upward trajectory. Darren Gleason's been there for a couple of years. You know, especially a lot of the players that are playing, like Conal Cunning and Keelan Malloy, obviously would have been involved. You know, during the All Ireland Club final as well. You know, and Wexford are probably on a downward trajectory, maybe under Dara Egan a little bit, ever so slightly. Like I think things have gone down. I wasn't impressed with them at all versus Galway. I thought they were very flat. So like Antrim won't fear Wexford, but as you said, Wexford being at home, it's a must-win game for them. Antrim would have put a lot into the game against Dublin, probably more than what Wexford put in against Galway. So yeah, I would go with a Wexford win, but I'd say probably only by 4 or 5 points. I think Antrim might be a lot more competitive here than people think.
Yeah, I'm going Wexford by 6. I think that around that 6 or 7 points, Wexford win. But as you said, Wexford have a tendency to completely get caught in the hop. So, I mean, just look at the Westmeath game last year. The Westmeath nearly beat them and drew with them. So, yeah, Wexford definitely, if they're going to catch anyone away from home, without doubt, Wexford is the game to do it. And then bringing us to the last game, Dublin against Westmeath, obviously in Parnell Park, a Dublin side that needs to bounce back and will in this game. Surely, there's no way Dublin can't not win this game.
Yeah, like I think if Dublin don't win this game, then you start to wonder where the county's going in terms of hurling and everything else, especially with Micheál Donoghue coming in. And yeah, I don't really know. It just hasn't quite clicked for Dublin just yet. And I think that it's the same old problems probably that Matty Kenny had in his final year, where there's that older crop there that are being phased on, and then the younger crop are there, but the younger crop just haven't quite clicked just yet. You know, it just hasn't quite happened yet. And then you've got mainstays like Ronan Hayes, who just hasn't been able to produce for Dublin in the last couple of seasons. You know, you're looking towards Alex Considine, Dara Purcell. Like, there just doesn't seem to be enough quality there at the moment. You know, enough players sort of, you know, making as much of an impact for Dublin, which is disappointing, especially when you look at, you know, how well Kilmacud Crokes and the Fina have looked in the Dublin Club Championship. But yeah, at home against Westmeath, like Westmeath scored 7 points the last day against Kilkenny, which was a low enough tally. Like Westmeath can be tricky at the best of times. You know, they drew at Wexford last year and stayed up in Leinster. So you just never quite know. But I think for Dublin, they need to put Westmeath to bed early. Like they need to, you know, and score difference needs to be important here as well. Like I think if Dublin allow Westmeath to have a chance, it could get nervy going down the home stretch. But yeah, anything other than a win, a comfortable win here for Dublin, I think would be a massive step backwards.
Oh, I completely agree. Because if Dublin don't win this game by at least 10 points, you're going to come nowhere near Kilkenny and Galway. You're going to come nowhere near them. So Dublin need to make a statement here, bounce back, get the victory. And I think that they will do that. I'm going for Dublin by 10 points plus. I think we need to get this victory, and I think we will. So that is a complete preview of the next weekend's action here on Play on GAA, guys. To thank you so much for giving us your time here today. My thanks to Aaron Prendergast from GAA Fan TV for coming on the channel once again. And until the next one, guys, take care.